Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's your girl, Justina Emily, and we are here at Girls Sound Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in for season 2. We're so excited to see what this next season has to bring. And thank you for enjoying, whether you're on the go or just chilling at home. So let's get on with the show. I have a very special guest today. Very, very special guest. Miss Joz Sida. Hey. Thank you for coming.
It's so funny because when they say that on stage, they say Joz Sida, and it sounds like John Cena.
And you're just like
I want to
walking
come
like
out
this.
like ready to wrestle. Or
He's just
do
walking like this,
a
like
nice
you
little
can't see me.
Netflix show, like movie that he's in all the time. I think the last movie I saw him was like Fast and the Furious, and he died. Sorry if I killed it for anybody. Wait, he did die in the show, not in the movie. No, in the movie, not the show. Yeah, I tell you, it's wild. It's wild. But yeah, people say it's John Cena, but it's Joz Sida.
Joz
It's Jaws
Sida.
like the shark. I'll tell you how I got that nickname because I always come in for the kill. But I was born as Jocelyn Sida.
Yeah.
Jocelyn Sida. My mom got it out of a book. She wanted to name me Josephine.
But
But my sister was like, hail to the no. And then I was like, thank you, sister. Gave me the whitest girl name ever. Jocelyn. I could have been a stripper. Anyways,
it's crazy though because we've known each other since elementary school.
Yeah, since it's been already, 27 years?
It's crazy to think that it's been that long.
I did that math real quick. I'm still a genius.
You were so. That's the Almani City School District. For you.
That was a good time. and then I was 14. I could have gone to high school with you, but we moved to more inland and Fontana. Mm-hmm. The land of warehouses.
And then we reconnected. Thank you to Facebook.
Yeah.
And you started your entertainment management company.
Ever since then, I'd always been into entertainment. I love art. I love music. I love performers. I think that is so inspiring and motivational when I see people and their creativity, whether it be music, whether it be modeling, whether it be anything in between, to do marketing and uplift. That was always been a thing that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to change the world. But as I've grown up, things have changed to what that definition really looks like.
And what does it look like to you now?
If you change one person's life, whatever it may be that you make them laugh, or you help them get a job,
yes,
or you call them just to see how they're doing. In life, people never remember what you gave them or what you bought them, but how you made them feel. So
amen to that.
that's how you change people's life, I think.
And when did you start like zoning in on stand up? Because you are performing like at the Ice House, I believe.
Ice House, Laugh Factory, and I'm traveling. I'm going to San Antonio pretty soon to be at the Laugh Out Loud Comedy Club, which is also a pretty big deal. I was at the comic strip in El Paso. But actually, it's funny. I've always been very sarcastic and very quick-witted because my dad is like that. And when I was home, I would always make fun of everybody at home, and they would just like put me in the middle, and I was just roasting everybody. It was so much fun. And then I realized that I like doing it to other people. I'm just kidding. No, I realized that when I was working in my career, which is in politics, I've been doing politics for 15 years, and sometimes I had to stall because the candidate wasn't there, or to keep people entertained and engaged.
Filling time.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because people kept coming back for more. They were excited to see me just be on stage, even though I was just introducing a candidate that I was managing or working with at the time. And then I started doing open mics in Chicago, which is funny because that's literally where I started. I didn't start in California. I started in Chicago, small open mics here. When I was very young, I was like 25 when I did my first open mic. And then, I learned a lot. But I kept it a secret from my family because my mom and my dad, well, especially my mom, was very strict about a lot of things. And she wanted me just to hone in on my career. And so I kept it a secret for a while until, what was it? I was living in Chicago right beginning of the pandemic. And I had done a show 6 months prior in September of 2020. And then in 2021, the pandemic was full motion. In 2022, a year after the insurrection, which is funny because I remember it was January 6th, the insurrection. A couple of days before that, I got called that somebody had dropped out of a lineup at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. and that they had seen me perform before and then wanted to see if I was down. And I had just canceled my trip to Germany. I was going to go to Germany and have like a, if I get stuck in a pandemic somewhere without my husband, I would like to do it in Germany as far away as possible.
Right.
Well, my ex-husband now. Let's get that cleared. But ex-husband. So they called me and I said, "Oh my God, this is it. This is what dreams are made of." I felt like Hillary Duff. Hey now, like low key. So then I did the show. I invited a bunch of people, and it was a big deal. And I remember just being on stage. This time not for a candidate. This time not for anything else. But this was me, for me. And the lights in your face and the microphones in your hand. And you're just telling stories about your life and connecting with people, having this conversation on stage with folks and making them laugh. It was the most magical feeling in the world. Time stood still, and I'm like, this is where I belong. And that's kind of how it went, like a snowball. And then, if there's not a lot of opportunity, create your own opportunities, and that's where La Cabrona was born.
And what is that, like that business part for you? Like, what is that?
Well, La Cabrona became a comedy showcase. It came from a joke, which was, the joke was, I don't like coronavirus, right? Nobody does. But the only Rona that I want in this bitch is this Cabrona right here. And that was kind of how it was born, La Cabrona. And then I realized that there were so many comics that were longing for an opportunity, especially minority comics, Latinos, Latinas, black and brown, I knew that there wasn't a space for like that. And Chicago was so segregated when it came to comedy too. All the comedy business, everything was in the north part of Chicago. And it would take anybody in the south side an hour or two to get there. So they wouldn't have open mics for accessibility for a lot of folks. And I had, because of my political background, I had a lot of friends and businesses that I was good with that opened their doors for me to start producing. And so I started curating my own comedy shows, like Cabrona Comedy. I performed January 6th of 2022. A month later, to the T, I already sold out my first production with comics. I did the lineup. I was excited. It was people that had given me opportunities. I loved giving back. Then it became a thing, and then I started doing open mics, and then I started doing that all at the same time. I was working in campaigns. So it was just interesting because people are like, "How can you do both?" I'm like, "You can.
Yeah.
You just don't talk about your job."
Yeah.
NDAs. But you talk about your life. So I ended up had two big events. I produced a big comedy show in a big festival, Café del Sol in Chicago, which is funny. I don't mean to like name drop, but a big popular comedian now who's super incredible. His name is Ken Flores. Like, he was in my show, like that show, and then he was in my other Pills and Fest show. And I remember thinking, like, man, this guy is going to go big. Like, and I was just thinking on when that would happen. And literally, like, the next 3 months, he was like blowing up on TikTok. But I was like, that is what I'm talking about, is like everybody has the opportunity, because you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
And any opportunity that artists, comedians can have stage time to get 10 minutes, to get 5 minutes to showcase something, and they can record it and put it on the internet, like, boom, you never know.
Yeah.
So all of that was happening at the same time as I was going through like probably one of the biggest like heartbreaks of my life.
And that was your
with my ex-husband, yeah, because I had known him for 11 years before we got married. And I did the whole thing where I proposed, and I was like,
you proposed to him?
Yeah, I did. It was a phenomenal, beautiful thing that I did, because I remember buying the ring in Reno, because I was working in Nevada for a presidential campaign. And I went and I caught all his friends and family, and I secured an art gallery, because we met when I was doing radio. I was a DJ in Chicago when I was very young, and we met there. He was a graffiti artist, and so that's how we met. And then 11 years later, he had become a firefighter. I was already doing really well in my career, and I was like, you know what, I think it's, he's the one, and so I proposed. I did the whole 9 yards, got his friends, secured the art gallery, and did a beautiful, beautiful proposal. And that was December of 2019. And then, I was in Vegas still. I moved back, and then in what pandemic happened in March.
Mhm.
And then I was I was working from home, managing 17 states, 1,000 staff for the 2020 presidential election. I was very depressed. You know, it was my family. I couldn't see them because, of COVID. They were all in California. And then he was working like extra overtime and everything. So I was like, I need to find myself.
Mhm.
And that is where I was like, I put it out in the universe. I manifested it. I was like, please, like, I want to do something that's for me. And then boom, like, 1-2 years later, like, it's happening, but it came at a cost,
Yeah.
and it came at a cost of, like, when you are blooming and choosing happiness, if your partner is not there with you, wishing you that happiness or elevating you, like, is this really, gonna work?
Mhm.
And as much as it hurt.
I think that too is important because a lot of people just assume like you get married, it's a happily ever after, or like, you know, us growing up as little girls, it's like you can't wait for the dream of your wedding day and for all of that to happen. And when you're there and you're like, okay, well, what is it after? And that's what I hope for my kids. Like I tell the girls, like, find your passion, find what you want, because it's like you really have to be happy with yourself, because if you have, like, if you're good and you have somebody, your partner that is not, they'll drag you down.
Oh, 1,000%.
They would just drag you.
Well, not even drag you down is that when they themselves don't know what they want, or like they're not emotionally organized, emotionally mature. Biggest thing I learned, self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not self-aware of their actions, their attitude, how they treat people, how they make people feel, and they don't realize that, and they think that they're above it, because guess what? You love them unconditionally, so they bank on that. They bank on the fact that, well, I know for a fact that this person's always going to love me, so I can be this, I can be whoever I want to be, and then I know they'll be there. And sadly enough, within our culture, it is like you see your mom or your sister kind of withstanding this like, passive aggressive narcissism that men do, because they're banking on the fact that we don't think we can go find better. But I learned recently that it's not about finding anybody. It's not even about finding like yourself. It's about living your truth and living your life. And if somehow, some way you connect with someone and it matches, it'll flow. It won't be hard.
Yeah.
And I realized that because when I was with my ex-husband, I had already dated a lot, and I was like, I was done. He had to, and he was my best friend. And but I didn't realize he had changed in many ways. And at the end, it was actually a year ago, like this time, where I was like, oh hell, because I had done the biggest mistake, and it's something I want to tell women out there, or anybody, even men and anybody. Whenever you have to, or you're forced to, or you're told to, that you can give up your dreams, your career, like, that's not give up, like, sacrifice. Oh, for now, if you want to do this, and so that you can focus on one project at a time with your spouse or your partner, don't do it. Do not do it. Do not say, okay, I'll get back to my stuff next year, or I'll put it back for, like, it's like, no. If at any point you have to give something up that is at a part of who you are, because you have to put that aside to help somebody else, do not do it. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that, if I don't know if I can cuss, but it doesn't mean you're an asshole. It doesn't mean that if you're selfish, like, let it be. Because once you do that, once you give up any part of who you are to help somebody else, to uplift your partner, you lose yourself. And you live with that resentment for the rest of your life. And it's playing catch up. And your soul will never be calm and comfortable ever again. And it sucks because you go your whole life having that little bit of resentment that, man, if I hadn't done this. And yeah, you could take the learning lessons. But if I can give somebody that advice, if you're ever faced with that, do not do it. Because I did that. I had a phenomenal career. I have a phenomenal career. I think the heavens of the manifestation of the universe. But it came at a cost. I had given up. And I'll tell you the story. Like, screw it. I'm just going to say it. I didn't sign an NDA with my ex-husband. So what happened was that I've been offered a job in Nevada. And I was like, at this point, I had already found out of infidelity on his end. And I didn't know about divorce yet. So I was like, I'm going to go take this job. Took this job in Las Vegas. But my comedy career had just been, like, activated. So I was like, Like in my heart, I'm like, damn, I wish I could stay in Chicago and like really work on my comedy. And then when I let that feeling out, my ex-husband decides to say, I remember I have a political career, right? He goes, I want to run for office. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, but I can't do it without you. Like, love bombing. And I was like, really? He goes, how about you move back, you continue your comedy career, and we focus on a campaign. And I was like, are you sure? Because that means I'm not going to bring in any income, but I'm going to be doing your campaign for free. Because obviously we're married. Yeah, let's do it. And that was probably the biggest mistake I ever did. So I did, all right, move my butt back to Chicago. And within a month, homeboy was like, you are not bringing any money. Is comedy really worth it? You're just out there like spending money and wasting time doing things for. And I was like, yo, like really? Like we literally had an agreement.
This conversation.
But I kept thriving. I kept doing my thing. And it was funny because that was May, June of 2022. Coming December of 2022, like we're at our wit's end where he's not doing what I need him to do, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, this is insane. I'm not making any money. But yeah, people were recognizing who I was because they know I know how to do this stuff. His campaign was thriving because they had all this thing. And then we had a big falling out. And I was like, all right, then it's over. Like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? I'm good. I'm out. But of course, love bombing is a real thing. And I don't want to, like, as a Latina, I didn't want to fail. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to fail my marriage.
Yeah.
I was like, fudge. Love bombing was really intense. And I remember being like, all right, well, let's give it 6 months. I said, 6 months. I said, give it 6 months and we'll figure it out. But I felt at that time he didn't need me anymore after 6 months. The campaign was over. And I didn't plan it properly. And I thought we were actually better. Like, we were actually have grown better. Oh, no. The moment the campaign was over, he asked me for the divorce. Like, bam. Like, bam. And I was like, and I had no job. I had given up all my savings. And at that point, I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, I can't, like, I'm not going to be able to fight in the divorce because I have nothing. Like, can you chill for a sec?
Right.
And at that time, I was like, no, but I think the first step is for me, I'm going to move out. Because, of course, I'm like, I'm not going to force him to move out. His, like, whole family lived there.
But I have a question. If you said that there was infidelity before, did that not scare you, like, as a candidate? Because you always hear of, like, oh, so, candidate so-and-so has a side piece, and that would ruin the...
Well, no, because the girl told me she didn't know he was married, like, when it happened. And it happened the day that actually I was, like, doing political work in Nevada. I'm trying to make my family proud, and I was, like, not even home. But I think we went to therapy, we went to marriage counseling for it and everything. And, the reasons why he did it were awful. But then I was like, again, I'm thinking about somebody that I've known for a long time. I'm thinking, like, what have triggered? It could have been work, right? Work is bad. Like, there's a lot of institutional racism in those type of departments like police and fire. So I'm like, maybe he's dealing with his own stuff. And that's the thing about dating somebody who's, like, sometimes, like, thinks of things outside the box and tries to have empathy. You put yourself in somebody's shoes of why they did certain things just to find your closure.
Yeah.
And I did that. And we worked through it. And it was like he was never going to do it again, right? So, again, fast forward. Like, even though that happened, I was like, you know what? When you love someone, though, like, Lord have mercy on your soul. You're just like, you tell your whole friends, oh, yeah, look at him. I don't ever want to date him ever again. And then you're over here like, hey.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
miss
real.
You're over here like, yeah, no, fuck that dude, But you're doing the opposite. It happens all the time. So people, you're out there, you're not alone on that shot. But sad moral of the story was that when he asked me for the divorce, I left. I was so, like, disheartened, and I left.
Is he in office?
No, he never. No. He didn't win or anything like that, because it was
Sorry.
Chicago politics is pretty intense. No, he didn't win, but I did help another candidate win her election, but she backstabbed me, so that was kind of fun.
And take it back.
Take it back. Yeah, no, it was sad. Like, it was sad. Anyways, I've learned my lessons, but now like I said, it leads to where I'm at today, and I'll tell you this because it's all about the experience.
Right.
And I moved back home, but I'm gonna have nothing. Not my dogs that I raised. Not my furniture, not my clothes, like probably 2 luggages. And I came back home and I felt devastated. But luckily, I had a lot of great friends that lived in different places, and I went backpacking, and I went staying in other friends in other states, and met incredible people, and realized that there's a lot of love out there that I still had yet to be discovered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get ambushed with legal paperwork. Out of nowhere, he starts sending me all this paper for the divorce, and I'm just like, "Can you chill for a sec? Let me get myself back up for my job, and then we'll figure this out."
Mm-hmm.
And no, he said, "I already filed, and if you don't show up, I could just divorce you like that." And I was like, "Wow, where is he getting help?" Found out that his new partner, his new girlfriend at the time, was a divorce attorney, and so he used her, right? I was like, "Dang!" But you know what? That's when I realized I was like, "You know what? Screw this."
Mm-hmm.
I signed. I'm like, I don't need anything. I came into your life with nothing. I take everything that I own with me, which is this, my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not gonna have that. So I wasn't doing comedy at that time. I had left Chicago, so I'm like, and I came back home, and in California, I was like, how in God's green earth are you gonna make it?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like. It's hard to make it in anywhere in comedy up in this place, or in art, and being an actor or a musician or anything. So I was like, damn. And I mean, I'm not skinny. I'm not a white girl. It was like I don't talk about super sexual stuff on my comedy. I'm like, oh man, I'm screwed. I'm not gonna make it. So I took a break from. I started, but then I got hired in an incredible job. I'm an executive director for an environmental organization, earning the most I've ever earned in my life, coming out of nothing.
Hey.
And I'm like, like I'm blessed. And I'm like, okay, I'm picking myself up. My divorce was finalized in October. Blessed. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'm like, I just get back into comedy. I was like, it's not about that. I'm like, I don't feel mentally prepared.
Yeah.
I'm emotionally drained.
Mm-hmm.
So September, October, November, December, but it was eating me alive inside. I'm like, oh my God.
It's almost like your gift was kind of like, hey,
Oh, my
let's
little
do
light
this.
was like, it was like the flower from Beauty and the Beast, and sure fucking petals were falling, and I'm just like, somebody come save my fucking flower. That's how I feel, And
Sorry.
no, it's true story, man. That's how I felt. And then one of my coworkers, she's like, "Hey, one of our other coworkers' husband is a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go watch him perform." And I'm like, "Oh, it's like asking me to if I'm Kobe and I want to play basketball. If I want to play basketball, but you invite me to a game just to go watch." She's like, "I don't want to go watch."
Kobe wants to play.
Kobe wants to play.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, "I'll go, I guess," because he already bought the tickets. And sure enough, I was like, "Yeah, dude, I should have played. This is hard to watch." And I ran into the producer of the show in the bathroom. Like I was coming in and he was coming out. And then we looked at each other and he's like, "You look familiar." I'm like, "Yeah, I follow you on social. I'm a comedian myself." But he goes, "Oh, really? Are you based out here?" I'm like, "Why just move back?" I told him the whole story. He goes, "Send me your stuff." And I was like, "Okay." But when you send people your stuff, you don't know. Like
if they're going to look at it.
That was like the new demo tape. Like, here's my CD,
Here's
my CD. And so he messages me the next day. He goes, "Can you come out to perform at the Ice House?" So not even 24 hours after I met him, he's like, do you want a spot at the Ice House, like on Thursday? That was Saturday. He told me Thursday. Like Thursday was my show.
Wow.
And I was like, yes. And in my mind, I cried because I was like, things happen for a reason. Mm-hmm. And so since February 8th was my first show at the Ice House. I think I performed now well over 20 times. And not only Ice House, Laugh Factory, Haha Comedy Club, I've done Roosevelt in Hollywood, the Roosevelt Hotel, and I have performed every single month, at least more than 2 to 3 times.
And there you go.
And it's been the best experience of my life. And the best part of it all was that my family had never seen me perform.
And have they now?
My sister especially has been to every single show. And she has invited all her friends, her co-workers. My former principals from high school have gone to my shows, former teachers. If I'm on dating apps, every single guy that wants to date me, I make sure they go to a show. Like, people are meeting, like having standoffs, just looking at each other like how do they know me? It's exciting, I am using every single love. But it's amazing because I am meeting the expectations that was set forth by the future me.
Mm-hmm.
And that no matter how old you are, I'm 35 now.
Yeah.
And you're never too late to start living your life because you never know who's watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on a fashion show. I've done plus size modeling, and again, I'm 35. And I'm thinking, man, like, you told my 25-year-old self this, or I would have been like, nah. I thought I was going to be like full on married, full fledged, 3 kids, you know, picket fence, and maybe have been run for political office myself. But that was when I realized that it was not my destiny. Sometimes you got to let destiny take its own course. And when I hear those laughs, when I come out of a show and people hug me, people message me, especially women, they're like, the fact that somebody that looks like me, that talks like me, is on stage.
Representation really matters.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
It really, really matters. My question to you is this, though. When you are doing stand-up, because, I mean, let's be honest, it's 2024, and people are sensitive. Very, very sensitive to comedy. When you're writing your set, how do you know, okay, like, if it's me and you, we know each other's humor, but how do you know that Joe is not going to take offense in the third row, or, you know, people over here are going to, like, when you're there and they're going to, when do you know that you cross the line?
I think it's a lot of study because I am very self-aware. And I personally don't do cringe comedy. I never have and never will. One, because that's not who I am.
What is cringe comedy?
It's like when you make people uncomfortable of something you said. Like if you talk about different types of sex, or different types of, like, you know, things that you do during sex, or crime, or death, or unaliving things, or just even when men talk about periods. Like, those things for me is like, that's not gonna hit. Like, read the room. And when I say read the room, I don't mean just that room. I mean read the room, where we are in this society right now. What are our trends? I talk about Teslas. Like, I talk about, like, the things are happening on current events. Like, one of my funny because I'm talking about jokes, I did a joke about how the media likes to spin things, but then in real life we really can't do that. So, like, we all literally, like, when we see, sadly to say, mass shootings, and they always have the audacity to say allegedly, this is the alleged killer. Like, we literally know that he did it. Like, why are we saying alleged? Like, let's fix this. Like, and when they say, like, especially with race and ethnicity, when they are like, oh, this black person did this, but when it's not a black person, it's a white person, they actually don't say that. They say, this man, this, like, young boy, and it's like, no, that person's white. Like, if they're gonna say their race, they say their race. You know what I mean? So we're in a society where the media spins a lot of things. And so I did a joke about how they were saying that allegedly P. Diddy.
I seen that.
So I was looking at that. I'm like, man, I'm gonna start using allegedly for everything. I'm like, I allegedly lost 10 pounds. Like, I allegedly paid my bill. Like, I'm just gonna start using that stuff lightly. I'm like, because
you said, there was videotape
like,
of that.
We're seeing it. Like, he's literally dragging her through the whole. It hurt me. I was like, I'm physically feeling like I just been dragged.
Yeah.
And they're like, allegedly P. Diddy did that. I'm like, why? Because he looks like every other black guy. He did it. We know it's him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, híjole. Like, so, like, those things. I talk about those things. I talk about every day. I talk about my family. I talk about how my mom believes that the marijuana plant was the aloe vera plant. You know, like, I talk about things that make me happy.
The aloe vera plant?
Yeah. Like, so my mom used to confuse, like, so she used to buy me stuff that looked like it was the weed plant, but she confused it as aloe vera. So, like, I talk about those things because we all have those moms and, you know, that culture that we bring to the table. Now, when I see the audience and I see that they look all white, I'm like, well, thank the Lord Jesus, I went to school in Wisconsin. So I talk about my experience in Wisconsin. And
Gotcha.
How, you know, and then when I see there's a lot of, like, you know, I kind of take a poll sometimes, like, hey, you know, where my Latinos at? And then, they get all crazy. And then I know what stories to pick from my index. Because I write my jokes, random stuff. I do talk a lot about my relationships, my relationship, which is also hard to date nowadays because they're like, oh, you're a comic. Oh, just don't roast me. I'm like, well, don't do anything stupid. The fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
don't talk about me.
Don't talk about it. Well, then one time this guy got so mad because I didn't want to talk to him because he was just always calling me bro. Like, bro. And I'm like, oh, no. I was like, okay. I was like, this is not going to go forward. He got so mad at me. And then he called me from, like, 7 different numbers. I was like, oh, my God, it's my fault for giving up my number like an idiot. But no,
But he would call you bro?
Yes, I made fun of him, too. So then he saw that, too, on one of my reels, I guess. And I was like, dang. I was like, I got fans. Well, even now, my ex-husband's new ex-girlfriend, because, you know, she turned out to be cray-cray, which we all figured, she got mad at me because in my jokes, they're jokes. I make fun of things like being toxic. Oh, and like my allegedly joke, I allegedly don't talk to my ex-husband. And then she thought that, oh my God, is she still talking to him? So then I got a whole like call. Oh, you still talking to my man? And I'm like,
Allegedly.
Oh my God. I was like, wow. Wow. I'm like, in my mind, I'm shocked, but I'm like, not really, because mental health is a really big deal these days. And I'm like, girl, I told her, I'm like, girl, if this is what you're worried about, I was like, oh my God, I feel bad for you. I was like, I'm 2,000 miles away. Like,
And what do you have moving forward, like for like Cabrona?
so I'm producing my first show here in Southern California in Pomona, which is a pretty big deal, on the 28th of June. So hopefully folks can go. It's all my stuff is on my social media at the Joz Sida or the Cabrona comedy. But I'm doing my first show, and my friends from Chicago are coming down to perform. I have a headliner from San Antonio, Texas, who is incredible. Her name is Michelle Cantu. And then I have a lot of cool local comics from here that have blown me away with their comedy, and they're really cool. It's a diverse lineup, so it's a little bit for everybody.
Nice.
So I'm producing my first show, and then the next big plan is to get some cool swag that has like some of my jokes on there, because my sister's been like really buggy, like she wants me to really have that. So that's one thing. And
I need a T-shirt.
Right, allegedly. And dot. And I have a bunch of other funny things that you will love. And then I think the next step for me is to do two things. Be happy where I'm at and enjoy it. And then the second thing is to not let the past dictate how I move forward.
Exactly.
Those are the biggest two things that I have on my radar. I'm very blessed. I work for an amazing organization that is trying to help do clean air and save the environment as best we can by saving open lands. And I get to invite them to my shows, but then also I get to bring my joy and who I am as a person, my charisma, to motivate a lot of communities to take action to preserve their land and to preserve clean air. I mean, we're suing cities because they're building warehouses next to high schools. Like, we are like challenging elected officials who are selling us to the highest bidders, to the lowest bidders for the highest pollution, like in Southern California. But this is across the globe. So I'm happy I'm doing what I love, my passions of helping people. And then instead of going to the gym, I go to comedy, I'm the best of both worlds. You should see me. I sweat. I'm up on stage. I feel like I ran a mile. Like, I have my Apple Watch. My Apple Watch was like, bitch, call 911. Like, you're about to fucking die real quick. And I'm like, I'm not even moving. They're like, oh, you met your goals. Like, what the fuck? I met my goals? That's one anxiety.
So you're burning?
I'm burning calories, apparently. That's why I took it off, because it was like zzz, and I was like, oh, man,
when
what's
you're on
going
stage, you're like...
Yeah, low key. And I'm like, it looks awful. Like, what is happening up here? I was like, no, my Apple Watch is becoming a transformer, like, out of fucking nowhere. But it tells me, good, you met your goal today. And I'm sitting down. That's probably my anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, definitely. My anxiety makes my heart rate go hard. And they're like, damn, good job. You're fucking on the treadmill. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally on the treadmill. Totally on the treadmill. Stairmaster.
Well, I'm so happy that you're able to come and chat with us. And also, like, just from us knowing each other from, Lagore Elementary, and to be here and to see you over the years, just blossom. And I know that you've gone through a rough patch, but just know that, look what you're creating. And as long as you're happy, stay blessed, stay positive, and stay humble.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so proud of you. You're doing what you were destined to do, which is, put a voice out there and represent all of us that, they say people that were born our year are pretty freaking special. Like, were you 89, right?
I was 89.
Yeah, we're freaking special. I heard. Don't get my social security, people. But still, I heard that we're literally like trailblazers for some reason.
Well,
yeah. So
I'm proud. I'm proud to say that.
Yeah, we're kicking.
89, 35 and fine.
I'm gonna tattoo that right now. Just kidding.
Let's go. Let's go. We're gonna go to.
Tell my mom. Tell my mom.
We're gonna go get a new tattoo. But thank you for tuning in to Girl Sound Podcast, and my name is Justina Emily, and we will see you soon.